But with all that said, let's move on to our next story, because you shared this, didn't you? Oh, goodness me, the Madam Web stuff has.
That was like 2 or 4, like 6 different reviews, and I was like, I'm not going to bury this even more. Yeah.
Like, wow. Well, audiences haven't seen it yet, but critics, who I tend to lean more towards an agreement when it comes to MCU and comic book and blockbuster films, not always, but a lot of the time, they have buried this thing. Here's the full story from The Independent in the UK. Madam Web branded an, quote, embarrassing mess as Dakota Johnson's Marvel film finally surfaces. It should be noted, this is just an opinion from me right here. Usually when a studio has a review embargo that doesn't lift until the day the movie releases or the day before the movie releases, warning. But here's the full story. Madam Web, the new Marvel adaptation, to be noted, not MCU, it's a Sony movie, starring Dakota Johnson and Sydney Sweeney, has been castigated by critics in first reactions. The film released on February 14th was not widely screened for critics, warning, ahead of its release, with the first advance verdicts only arriving after the film's premiere this week. Pundits have not been kind to the movie, however, with one writer describing it as an embarrassing mess. Madam Web takes place in the same continuity as the 2 Venom films starring Tom Hardy, as well as the 2021 Jared Leto flop, Morbius. While the independent review of the film will not be arriving until after release, here's a roundup of some of the reactions to the film from the few who have seen it. YouTuber Chris Parker wrote, Madam Web is an embarrassing mess. Talented stars wasted on probably the worst comic book movie I have ever seen. Ooh, wow. Filled with atrocious dialogue, awkward editing, and an all-round laughable structure. I sat there baffled, scene by scene, someone approved this. The memes will redeem it. Ha! Revenge of the Sith. He did, however, praise Johnson's humor, the early 2000s aesthetic, and Scott's performance. The Hollywood Handle described Madam Web as a chunky, poorly written, messy, and sloppy movie packed with some mediocre editing and performances. And it goes on and on like this. But there's one thing I'd like to address in the article at the end here, which is the part which is going to lead us into our story here. Because frankly, AJ, my take on this, and I'll let you go in, is that all of this negativity, which I believe is going to continue once the movie releases, means nothing. But this article doesn't seem to get that. So let's go into that. The negative responses come amid wider disillusionment with the future of superhero movies, part of a trend that many have dubbed superhero fatigue. In the last year alone, films including Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and the Marvels have all underperformed at the box office, prompting speculation that the genre's commercial domination may be waning. Okay, with your permission, AJ, I would like to go first on this and just...
I just want to add one thing before you do.
Please.
One other review that really took me out was Matt Ramos at The Real Soups. Morbius was better. That one hurt me. That one hurt me. The floor is yours, but in terms of reviews, that had to be mentioned.
Yeah, Morbius, that's saying something. So let's just double down on this, okay? Superhero fatigue, and then they go on to quote Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and the Marvels. This is not called superhero fatigue. Please make a note of the timestamp, AJ, because you're going to have to edit here. This is called shit movie fatigue. All right? It's really quite simple. I don't include the Marvels in that because actually AJ and I are defenders of that film. We actually quite like that, though we will say, is it top tier Marvel? No. Is it going to break into the top 10 MCU movies? Probably not. Top 10 comic book movies? Definitely not. But is it bottom tier next to like Thor: Love and Thunder, The Dark World, and like other terrible things they've done? Hell no, it's not that bad. So I think when you look at, and you brought it up, earlier, Morbius. You look at Morbius. You look at Ant-Man and the Lost Quantumania, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, which was so bad, like so bad. It actually hurt me to my core. In the last few years, it's not the superhero movies that people are getting bored of. It's not that, oh, there's so many superhero movies now, so therefore I am fatigued by them. It's that the movies they're making are really, really bad. So people are obviously like, well, going to the cinema is not a cheap pastime. So why would I go and spend my money on something which for the last 3 or 4 times, irrespective of studio, be it Sony, DC, Marvel, I have been burned on? It's not because I don't want to see superhero movies anymore. It's I don't want to sit through 2 to 3 hours of bad movie. Why would I do that to myself? And, case in point, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. People are, oh, but you're only saying that because it's really good. Yeah. No, that's the point. Look what happened. It's like the movie was really good. Critics loved it. The word spread like wildfire. Like, yo. Don't pay attention to how bad the movies have been recently. This is freaking great. And let's remember, Guardians 2 wasn't that good. So we are in an industry of what have you done for me lately? And in this franchise, the last entry wasn't that good. So people, especially when you consider the last entry wasn't that good and the recent comic book movies across the board were not good, there was zero reason for people to go and tune into Guardians 3, except the word got out that, hey, it's actually really good. And what happened? 800 million.
Also include Across the Spider-Verse into that. People were talking about that. So it's not necessarily...
Oh, but you can't include that because people will be like, but it's an animation. Still a superhero movie, guys. That doesn't mean it's fatigue. Super Mario. Super Mario is technically a superhero. Just ask how it should have ended.
I love that one. I love that. That is one of the best episodes.
But the fact of the matter is that people aren't bored of superheroes. People do not have superhero fatigue. People have bad movie fatigue. And this guy shares that fatigue because I don't like sitting through bad movies. Your thoughts?
When they listed the films, I was very much in the same vein of what you were saying, because what has hit me with the list of films that's there, the superhero genre is going back into an era that it was panned for before. Now judge it, because even as much as you take Captain Marvel and you can take it against the Marvels, it's two very different films. We are now re-entering a... People are gonna hate me for this, but I mean what I say, and I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. The Fantastic Four, Jessica Alba type era, the tad of Green Lantern. No, listen to what I'm saying. Where we had really deep,
I agree,
stories of something. And don't get me wrong, I'm a Batman Forever fan. I know what I'm saying, and I don't necessarily hate them. Listen, the fun I had with Shazam, I've actually started. I was at my brother's house, and it's not an AJ fell asleep moment. I was just not able to finish it because I was somewhere else. I was watching Shazam 2 and actually had a bit of fun with it, but I'm not putting it in the Winter Soldier and Endgame category. It's a different target audience, and you are. It feels like childhood pandering now. It's not the films of, wow, have you seen what that's about? And I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, Ragnarok changed the game because everyone was talking Ragnarok and they were like, let's bring some humor into this. And like, you can bring humor into the comic book movies, and no one's really been able to stick the landing that way. And the funny thing is that the Guardians, though it was the comedic one, changed the course and went very dramatic. And that's why people are appreciating it. There's a bit of depth to your Across the Spider-Verse, animation or not. People are taking it in because that's the angle that they're looking for. Like, let's be honest, what saved Marvel even before Iron Man? Blade. It's that kind of angle that people are looking at when it comes to your superhero movies. And Spider-Man took an edge. Iron Man definitely went there, and that's been the way. So yes, you can go down that route, but let's be honest, that's the stuff that were ridiculed. I'm not calling it Green Lantern. I'm not calling it Fantastic Four 2, which is a very forbidden film. But I feel like they've taken a turn because they saw a success. But if you can't handle it the right way, hell, even Taika couldn't handle it the right way a second time.
Correct.
You're now in a dangerous territory. So is there fatigue? No, it's not necessarily genre based. I as a comic book geek, I don't pray for it to go down the Western route. I say that very much in a way that, we don't talk about those films anymore. I think it can still last, but mix it with our previous story. There's a point where you can go too deep. There is a point, but people do like serials. Like, there are shows that have been going on for ages. So there's a thin balance of not going too deep where people are lost and you can follow out on a story, but in the same breath, don't be too comedic because people like a bit of depth. You need a bit of depth in your story.
Yeah. I guess what I'll add to that is that, the one thing, irrespective of when the movies have been good or not, that the MCU has always been a little bit guilty of is that they don't really allow the dramatic moments to breathe. It's like when they do a dramatic moment, they need to throw in a joke to be like, it's getting a bit dark, levity, which, to your point, is one of the reasons why I think Guardians was so successful. Weren't no jokes in that movie. Like,
yeah,
woof.
People expected it. It went a different way.
That went like pulled on your heartstrings. That one, The Guardians of the Galaxy, is the first MCU movie that made me cry. Like when they, when that end happened, I was like, oh God, I'm genuinely tearing up. Like, what the hell? It was amazing. And it showed, and that was bookended by so many bad movies. It just showed, if you make a good movie, if you build it, they will come. I hate the fact that I'm quoting a Kevin Costner movie, but there you go. It is what it is. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you really believe that this is superhero fatigue and it's a genre thing? Or do you kind of agree with AJ and I that it's nothing to do with the genre, it's to do with the quality of the movies, and it could be applied to any genre? Let us know.
One small bit to add. Can Sony actually make a decent Spider-Man universe movie? Short of Venom.
I'm hopeful for Craven. I know it's stupid to be hopeful for Craven, but I am hopeful for Craven.
Good on you, man. Good on you.
I like Aaron Taylor Johnson. Make him the next James Bond, as far as I'm concerned. I think he's awesome.